was at the pinnacle of my industry. And on a night like that, when the pressure to perform at the highest level is so overwhelming, there was a part of me that wanted to bolt. And I thought, my gosh, if I am here and I still don't feel like I've got it all together, what's it going to take?
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Don't Do That podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Waltrich. On this show, we talk to real life leaders and badasses about the mistakes that they've actually made, lessons they've learned along the way, and moments they look back on and say, yeah, don't do that. Today's guest is someone who knows exactly what it means to perform at the highest level and to wrestle with pressure and perfectionism and self-doubt that come with it. Sandra Joseph is a history-making Broadway star, known most for her role in Phantom of the Opera, playing the lead longer than any lady in the show's history, spending more than a decade in one of the most demanding roles in theater. But her story doesn't stop there. Since leaving the stage, Sandra's built a second career as a keynote speaker and the author of Unmasking What Matters, where she shares the mistakes she made while chasing perfection, hiding behind confidence, and wearing masks that she thought she had to wear to succeed. What a perfect alignment to this podcast, right? She's brought those hard-earned lessons into boardrooms and to conferences across the financial services industry, working with advisors and leaders like all of you who face enormous pressure to perform, to project certainty, and to get it right for your clients. So today, we're going to talk about the missteps, the masks, the moments that shaped her, and what leaders can learn when they stop trying to look flawless and be real. Sandra, welcome to Don't Do That.
Wow, thank you for that fantastic introduction, Kelly. I've never heard one like that before.
Oh, well, we try to be a little different here.
I appreciate it. That's fabulous.
So tell our audience, this is a departure from my normal guest, guys. I know that my listeners are thinking she is not a financial services executive, and that's why I'm so excited about this. I think we have a moment today to sort of step into something different. So tell us a little bit about your story.
Yes. Well, stay with us, everyone, because I know you might be thinking, what does this Broadway person have to do with business? Don't turn us off, because I've actually spent the better part of the last 15 years doing a lot of client appreciation events with financial advisors and boot camps for financial advisors, masterminds I've attended. And at first, I'm going to be honest with you, I too thought, what am I doing in this world? But over time, I really from the very first event I was a part of with advisors, I learned just how many points of connection there are between your high pressure world and the high pressure world that I was a part of for so many years. And Kelly, you talked about it in the introduction. The masks that we wear to try to project certainty, perfection, avoid vulnerability, when the truth of it is, advisors and actors are really in the business of heart connection. Without that trust and that emotional connection, you really can't succeed.
Right.
Advisors are talking to people about mortality and planning for what happens after you're gone. There's so many things that are really difficult to talk about. And actors in the same way are really in the business of emotional connection.
Okay, so take us back, because your role is iconic and amazing, and I want to know all about it. I want to know about your time on Broadway. Like, take us behind the curtain and tell us what it was like for you.
Well, I worked so hard to get there, and I'm sure many CEOs listening, you've all worked really hard to ascend to that level. And I climbed the Phantom ladder over a number of years, starting as the understudy to Christine, then getting promoted to Christine on the national tour, traveled across the country, eventually got the promotion of a lifetime, like the Broadway version of the C-suite, and I became the longest running leading lady on Broadway in Phantom, the longest running show of all time. So here I am being this record breaker, right? And in this record breaking show, we're making history. We're all over the news and the press. And I'll tell you about the night that I remember most vividly. It was the night that we broke the record to become the longest running show of all time. It had been held by Cats before Phantom. And you can imagine the pressure of a night like that. It was the red carpet gala. There were celebrities and press, paparazzi, the whole thing. And everyone who'd ever been a part of the show was in the audience. I mean, it was a huge, high stakes night. And I remember standing in the dressing room right before the show started, and I heard the music. That was my cue to make my way down for my entrance. And I turned and stared at the window in my dressing room and thought about the fire escape stairs. And I could just sneak down there and disappear off into the crowd in Times Square, change my name, move to Europe. I don't know. Here I was at the pinnacle of my industry. And on a night like that, when the pressure to perform at the highest level is so overwhelming, there was a part of me that wanted to bolt. Yeah. And I thought, my gosh, if I am here and I still don't feel like I've got it all together, what's it going to take? That was the real, behind the curtain moment where I was like, I am going to have to really do some soul searching here to figure out how to find my footing amidst all of this craziness. And that's been a lifelong journey of really getting clear about what really matters and how to stay centered and take care of myself so I can show up and give my all every time without that sort of imposter syndrome that I think so many successful people deal with.
Yeah. So something you said just sort of hit me when you said I did all the things to get to this point. I'm sure that there was sacrifice, and that's not easy. And I look at today, I have a team of 35 people, and I interview thousands of people, and I feel sometimes like people don't understand what it takes to get to a certain level or to lead, and people make it look really easy and they make it look really fun. And the fact of the matter is, and I'm sure you can attest to this, there's an immense amount of sacrifice to get to the top of the ladder that people don't see. So I kind of want to hear from you, what did that look like?
Yeah. Well, I fell in love with theater when I was a kid. I went to see Annie when the national tour came through my hometown of Detroit, and I knew I wanted to be a part of that world. And my dad had done some acting in his young life before I was born, and he knew a little bit about the business of theater, and he always said, you need two things. You need to love it, and you need discipline. And that always stayed with me. I mean, the love for it was inherent. Nobody had to teach me that. But the discipline, I missed out on a lot of time with my friends and going out to do fun stuff while I was in the basement of my parents' house singing scales and practicing and honing my craft and really being a starving artist in New York for many years before I got that big break. I mean, I hesitate to say this with people in financial services listening, but I maxed out every credit card I could find. I took cash advances so that I could study with the best teachers I couldn't afford. But I knew that the training was so important, and I've been committed to that throughout my career. I've been a lifelong learner. I've continued to take voice lessons and acting classes. I've hired coaches. I think really committing to growth and forever. I mean, you never arrive. And I think that mindset, that growth mindset is so important, and it keeps it fun. Instead of considering yourself an expert once you've achieved a certain level of success, if you can stay in that beginner's mind, then all the possibilities are open to you. Instead of having a fixed idea of this is how it goes, you open up to possibilities that you might not have seen coming, or advice from someone that might open up just a tiny little new way of looking at something or doing something that keeps it fresh for you. I mean, that's the other thing. I played Christine for 10 years. Imagine the exact same songs, scenes, lines over and over and over thousands of times. And you're expected to do it as if it's the first time every single night. So you can really hit some burnout there. And how do you keep it fresh over time? Staying in a beginner's mindset really helps. That's when you can get into the minutia of doing it better, like the syllables instead of the songs.
I love that. Yeah, my partners and I, it's funny, we pay very close attention to the people who are taking classes and trying to learn and trying to teach our team new things, and who are trying to constantly make themselves better, because at the end of the day, like, the world is moving so fast and you have to stay on top of things, and you have to, especially in our line of work. So that definitely resonates with me. And I don't know that enough people see themselves as lifelong learners. I think people get in a job and then they do what they need to do okay, and then call it a day. And we need more people who have so much passion for something that they want to be wonderful at it.
Yeah, and that comes, I think, naturally when you love what you do, and it's easy over time to sort of lose, just like in a long marriage. I've been with my husband, who, by the way, played the Phantom. We met in the show, fell in love on stage and off stage, and we've been together for close to 30 years now. And he and I actually still perform together frequently. But just like in a long-term partnership, the passion sometimes wanes, but you can keep things fresh if you're intentional about it. And the other thing that you just reminded me of, Kelly, is it's not only striving to be your best and to keep learning and growing in your business, but if you want to perform at the highest level over a long period of time, really focusing on your self-care and learning more and more how to be your best self, that is huge. There's no way I could have performed in that environment for 10 years without really committing to taking care of myself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and prioritizing that. You have to learn to delegate. You have to learn to say no. You have to prioritize rest. And those are things that are not necessarily praised in our culture, but I want to bring my best humanity to my work. Not just sing the notes correctly. I want to be able to really ask the stagehand how his day was, and be present and listening, and show up as not just the best Christine, but the best Sandra that I can be. And that takes some focus. That doesn't just happen. I think that is another thing that's not prioritized enough, is real self-care.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And sometimes it feels like there aren't enough hours in the day to prioritize everything, for sure.
For sure. But if we don't carve it out, and find ways to be mindful and present, I don't think we can do our best and be our best in relationship, because all work we're in relationship. We're all in the people business, right? Whether we're leading a team or speaking to clients, we've got to be able to show up and be present. And I mean, if there's one thing to start with as a singer, I can tell you, sleep. Without quality sleep, you cannot perform, period.
Yeah.
And your brain doesn't work properly. Your body isn't functioning at its best. So if there's one place I would encourage people to start, it's really looking at how you can improve your sleep.
Yeah, that's such good advice. I know I have toddlers, so
Oh.
I imagine that at some point I'll get to sleep again, hopefully.
The early mom years are its own special kind of thing, when it comes to sleep.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so working with your partner.
Oof.
I met my husband at work too, which is wild. I feel like a lot of people do. So tell us about that dynamic and how did you make that work? I found that it was easier to get sick of each other when you were with them at work and then with them at home. So we got different jobs. You did not do that. So tell us.
Yeah. Well, the thing is about Ron Bomer, my husband, and we've spent a lot of years apart, actually, not whole years, but a lot of time where, Ron was the Phantom for like a year of his life. And he's done dozens of other Broadway shows. So we would often be in different locations, and then coming back together was always like a fresh start. So that really helped us. Now, since I started keynoting full time and post-pandemic, I've really roped him into traveling with me, keynoting with me, doing client appreciation events together. And it's interesting because we get along really well in life in most areas. When we work together, that's when our big egos come out and our big opinions about the smallest little things, like, no, I should sing this song before you sing that song, or like the stupidest stuff. We care very deeply, and two artistic sensibilities that don't always match. It's been a very interesting challenge for us to work through.
Yeah, I remember my husband and we worked together at a fund company years and years and years ago. 20 years ago at this point. And I just remember saying to him, I think I'm going to quit and I'm going to go somewhere else and I'll see you when I get home every day. And we've been good ever since. Married, 2 kids, good to go. I'm like, this is a lot. It's a lot.
It is. It definitely makes us practice everything we've ever learned about conflict resolution, listening.
Yes. Compromise.
Lots of compromise, for sure.
I see a lot of husband and wife duos in financial services, and I always just want to poke people and be like, how do you do that? How do you not kill each other? How do you have your own things? Because I think for me, I needed to have my own stuff so I could come home excited about things to tell him. And if we had the same stuff, that was just hard for me. I don't know.
Yes, I think it is helpful if everyone sort of has their lane, even if they're headed in the same direction. If they can be in sort of parallel lanes, that helps. But Ron and I really collaborate a lot on every show that we do, every message that we share. So it pushes us to be better, I think, ultimately. And we really respect and value each other's opinion, but it can get hot sometimes, and not in the good way.
I love that you're admitting that. I appreciate that about you.
Yeah, it gets heated. We get into some big conversations sometimes.
Awesome. Okay, so tell us about, you had this moment, you're going to jump out the window.
Yeah.
Glad you didn't. Like, what did it take to get you out on the stage? And was that a moment that you shifted your life? Like, tell us about that.
Yeah, because it was the same lesson I learned really in my audition process. I did not walk in off the street from Detroit and into New York and land the role of Christine immediately. Like I said, I had many years of starving and being broke and failing and getting rejected all over the place. And what I learned through the auditions is the same thing I really had to keep learning. And I think often we have that, where life wants to keep teaching us the same lesson until we finally get it. And it really was the only way I could avoid going down the fire escape stairs was to say, I'm not here to be perfect. I'm here to be present. I'm not here to prove myself. I'm here to be myself and bring my whole heart and the best of what I've got to this moment. And when I did that, the irony of it, of course, is that here I am in a show about a man who wears a mask. And I'm recognizing the masks that I'm wearing of wanting to project perfection. And it's just not possible to be perfect every single time. And what gives us so much freedom is to let go of the mask, put that aside, and show up in our full, flawed humanity. That's the message of the show. That show ran for 35 years on Broadway. It's the most lucrative entertainment enterprise, one of the top of all time, and certainly the most lucrative Broadway show that's ever existed. So what is it that connects with people about that show? It's the same thing that connects with people in a one-on-one conversation. It's taking off the masks of perfection that keep us separate from each other and showing our full humanity. That's what is required when you're acting. You have to let the cracks show. That's when an audience connects with you. And that is what ultimately won me the role of Christine in the first place. I had 2 auditions before I finally got the role, and I blew it the first 2 times. And I realized in retrospect the masks that I was wearing. Anytime there's sort of an insecure voice or an I'm not good enough or trying to be what you think they want you to be, that's when the mask tends to creep up. And the first audition, I was sort of deer in the headlights, frozen, just so afraid that I couldn't really be expressive. And the second audition, I was so determined to make every note and every move perfect that I was a little bit stiff and trying too hard. And finally, by the third audition, when I was so frustrated and exhausted by myself that I just said, okay, I can't, I'm just going to show up and bring my heart and see what happens. And I let go of all my preconceived ideas of how I was going to do it. And I was present and authentic. That's when Hal Prince, the late, great director, connected with me and trusted me with the role. And I think whatever it is that we do, building that know, like, and trust factor comes from letting go of the mask and showing up in our full humanity. And that's what allowed me to go out on the stage that night of the record-breaking show and just think about, you know what, my mom and dad and my sister are out there. And even if I fall flat on my face, there will be people who will love me anyway and help me pick up the pieces. And it wasn't perfect. I didn't do a perfect show. In 10 years and thousands of performances, I never did a perfect show. But hopefully my best shows were the ones where I was fully there. I was not on autopilot. I was present and bringing my heart. And I want to share one other thing, Kelly. When I was in the 10th year and really struggling with burnout, and you sort of over time can lose a sense of purpose in what you do. Like, does this even matter? There are big problems in the world, and I'm up here singing show tunes, and I'm not, boots on the ground helping to save the planet. What is all of this even for? One of my best friends gave me a gift that is one of the most priceless things I've ever received. It was a purple box, and on top of it, he stenciled the word perspective. Inside the box were clippings he scoured the internet to find from people all over the world sharing their experience of seeing Phantom and talking about what it meant to them, their memories that they created. And just reading these little stories touched my heart in such a way that I recognize anew, like, why I'm there. Someone is having an experience or creating a memory with a loved one that may last them forever. And to us, it might seem like a small thing. In the midst of your day-to-day, you're not thinking about the impact of your actions on the recipient at the end of it. But it helps so much to remember why we really do what we do. And that every time we show up and we're present and we give our best, we are dropping a little ripple in the water, and we don't know where that ripple will end. We can't know the lives that will be touched because of how we show up, and that really helped me stay motivated to the finish line.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing friend you have. That's a gift.
He is amazing.
Oh my gosh. Tear over here. I feel like I work in financial services, so you know the type. Let's just leave it at that. And I am not it, obviously. And so I find navigating through this now 20-year long career with a lot of, I don't need to give the description of the financial services industry. You know what it looks like. That the being real is not, I would not say as a strong characteristic of the folks in this industry. I feel like everyone tries to be really polished and really buttoned up and say the smart things and use the jargon. And I have found a pocket of people who are very real, and I think have tried to keep them my whole career. But I think that's why my company exists, Sandra, because we try to help people be more real so that clients are, can feel something and can feel a connection to them and can think about their money more than just, a means to an end. So I feel like what you're saying is hitting me in the heart, because I feel like that is very much how I feel every day when I wake up coming into this industry, is that it needs a dose of, hey guys, let's all be real. Let's take all the crap out, I'm so buttoned up. I'm so using these smart words and trying to get to the next job level and be real people. I feel that to my core.
I think that is such a bullseye, Kelly. It's so lacking in, and there's, people are built differently, right? I am a touchy-feely, woo-woo, actressy human. That's just who I am. I'm highly sensitive. I'm highly emotional. Those are really good qualities to have in my line of work. Yeah. However, don't ask me to talk about annuities or don't ask me to talk about numbers. And I have such respect and admiration for people who have gifts that can be analytical, can look at things in ways that I will never understand. But I've worked with enough advisors now to know that their ability to communicate with different types of personalities and people like me without getting me lost in the analytical and the numbers and all this stuff. If an advisor can speak my language, which is, they've got to bring the head and the heart together. That, to me, is the journey of a lifetime. When you can connect. E.M. Forster famously wrote a very brief quote, which we can all memorize: only connect. Those two words, only connect. And what he's really talking about is connecting the head and the heart.
Yes.
And if you can learn to do that, then you can be of such service to people. But it's hard for some people to speak that language, right? The language of the heart. And that's where I think I can come in. And this is why I love doing client appreciation events with financial advisors, because it's sort of a cheat. It's a way to bring emotional connection in the room without the advisor having to do all the heavy lifting of the emotional labor. You leave that to me. And what we do is we'll have advisors, we'll bring a couple chairs up on stage, and I give the advisors questions in advance to tee me up, to tell my story. And we do a fireside chat that is very deeply emotionally connecting. And the advisor being up on stage with me, it shines the light of all that heart connection on the advisor and their firm. And then they go and take a seat in the audience, have a drink, and Ron and I put on a show, and we'll entertain for half an hour or so and have some cocktails and take some photos with folks. And that's one of the reasons that it really is one of my favorite things I do, beyond doing keynotes for conferences and stuff like that. What I love is being able to facilitate that emotional connection for advisors who that may not be their comfort zone. That's not necessarily their wheelhouse or the language they speak. But that's a way that you can bring emotional connection and show appreciation to clients without it being, going to a sporting event or a wine tasting.
Yeah, connecting the heart and the head, guys. I want to just say that again because it's so true. And now I know why my partner Joe told me I needed to have this conversation with you, because he is a connect the heart and the head all day long, every day, communication focused human, which I love. And I think why him and I ended up being partners in this business, to help advisors try to find their voice and find a message that's going to resonate. But now I get it, because that is his focus every day for sure. I love that. Heart in the head, guys. Everybody's so quick to try to figure out, how do I get the next lead? How do I get 1 million leads without paying for any of them is what I get calls about all day long. And I wish more people would call me and say, how do I help? How can you help me connect to more people through my message? That's what I want to calls about, guys. Come on, not the next cheap lead. How do you connect? How do you connect the heart and the head? I love that. Okay, Sandra, so tell us a little bit about the book. Like, where did that come from? Tell us what it's about. We have a financial services focused book club that we're going to have to get you on as a next.
Wow.
So we'll have to do that too. But tell our listeners a little bit about the book.
Yeah, my book is called Unmasking What Matters, 10 Life Lessons from 10 Years on Broadway. And it shares the story. It's part memoir, part self-actualization. It gives my story of my journey to Broadway and the 10 years I spent in a very high performance environment, and valuable takeaways of how you can perform at your highest level without going insane over the long period of time.
We all need that.
Yeah, it took me forever to write it. I knew that I had a message that I wanted to share, and finding the structure was very challenging. Finally, getting it down to 10 succinct chapters and 10 takeaways that allowed me to finally finish the thing. It's published by She Writes Press, which I'm really proud of. They really support female authors. And
What's the biggest secret? What's the biggest takeaway? How are we doing this? How are we performing at our best?
Well, we've touched on it, and it's the most important lesson that I took away from 10 years in Phantom, and it really is about taking off the mask and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. If you want to connect, you cannot do it when there's a mask in the way. Brene Brown has taught us so much about this, right? The power of vulnerability. We think of it as weakness, but it's showing up in our full humanity that invites people to connect. And for people in financial services, of course you want to project an air of professionalism. I'm not talking about oversharing. I'm not talking about like airing your dirty laundry, but sharing your story of why it matters to you. Yeah. Why you love doing what you do, why you want to help other people achieve their dreams. Like, those are the points that connect us. What is your dream for yourself and your family? And what are the dreams that your clients have and the people that you're interacting with every day? And how can we show up for each other and help each other fully realize who we're here to be, because I think we all innately have a sense of what we're here for. And sometimes things show up to roadblocks hit us to stop us, or other people say you're crazy, or we fear the judgment of others. But if we can keep showing up for ourselves and each other and lifting each other up and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable together, then we can really start to empower one another and get there together.
Yeah. So at this point in the show, I always ask people, what are we not doing today? But I feel like you've answered that a couple of times over. Guys, Sandra's telling us we are not wearing masks. We are being vulnerable. We are being real with ourselves, and we're allowing ourselves to make mistakes. And honestly, that's the premise of this whole show. So you are just perfect for it. My goal is to let people who listen know that there's not a straight path to success, right? Like, you're allowed to step in it, and you're allowed to make mistakes, and you're allowed to feel like you're going to go down the fire escape some days. I think we all feel those things, and I want everybody to connect, because that's something we all do. And there's nobody out there that's perfect getting to the end of their day every day without a smidge of, imposter syndrome or whatever it is that day. Yeah.
Exactly. And I really do think our world is aching for authenticity. And it's our authenticity that invites connection. And that's what makes people want to work with you and stay loyal to you. It's connection. And that doesn't come from analytics. That comes from the emotional labor of showing up as your most authentic self.
I love that. Okay, Sandra, if people want to get in touch with you about keynotes or client appreciation events, how should they do that?
Yeah, Sandra at sandrajoseph.com is my easiest email. My website is sandrajoseph.com, and someone will get back in touch with you right away. It might be me, it might be Monique, our wonderful agent, but I would love to hear from anyone. Sandra at sandrajoseph.com.
I love that. Guys, if you're thinking to yourself, you could use a little help connecting the heart to the head, I suggest that you hit her with a message and let her help you do that. All right, everybody, thank you for listening. We're not wearing masks. That's what we're not doing today. Sandra, I loved this conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time. I'm so appreciative.
Thank you for having me, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to be notified when new episodes become available. And please consider giving us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. This podcast is sponsored by Intentionally, a financial services growth engine design consultancy and agency. If you want to learn more, please email me at kelly@growintentionally.com. Thank you again for listening, and check back to hear what we're not doing next.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Kelly Waltrich. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only.